Something I would like for other people with different titles in the same field, but also just people in general. As a doctor, I'm not your boss and I'm not your supervisor. I'm your colleague.
Right.
Like, we work together. Mm-hmm. We don't work in some hierarchical type thing. It's not like an office where there's a manager and then there's a manager of the manager and then there's minions. Like, we are all working together. And it astounds me how the public or patients think that I'm like the boss of a nurse. I'm just like, when Rebecca and I work together, she's my boss. Like, you're wrong. Like, I'm not your supervisor. I'm not your boss. I will be your leader when it is necessary. Yeah. But for things to flow well, for things to work their best, you have your job, you have your job, you have your job, you have your job, and I have mine, and we work together.
We work together and we rely on each other.
Yes.
My favorite thing is when a patient says, "Oh, you're just a nurse. I want a doctor to do my catheter, or I want a doctor to do my IV." And I'm like,
no, you don't.
Okay.
No, you don't.
You really don't want that.
You want,
good luck.
No. Yeah, you do not want that. We all have a different skill set. One is not better than the other. It's just different, and it has to be that way to take care of the citizens of the city in which we live.
And that's something that I stop making me have a positive opinion of you during this. That's something that I truly appreciate, because I have worked for providers who treat me like a minion. And thankfully they are so few and far between, or they don't acknowledge my skill level, my knowledge base, and my proficiency, and they talk down to me. So the fact that, you were like, no, like, we rely on each other so much. I can't do my job without you. You can't do your job without me. And that goes for all of us in this room. Mm-hmm. So just having that awareness and that appreciation, holy shit, like, we are all badasses in our own right in what we do. And it is such a privilege to do what we do and get to collaborate with each other. When I go to a provider, or I've had a medic come to me and like say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, I'll go and say, "Hey, what about, can we try this medication, sir?" And, sometimes they're like, "You know what? I didn't think of that. That's a good idea." And sometimes like, "Well, no, that's not good in this situation." But then they teach me. I'm like, fuck yeah, teach me. I want to learn.
Yeah.
Everything you hear today from myself and my guests is opinion only and doesn't represent any organizations or companies that any of us are affiliated with. The stories you hear have been modified to protect patient privacy, and any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice nor used to diagnose any medical or healthcare conditions.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of ego when people are fixated on this hierarchy that's not really there. It's these people that have very inflated senses of self, and they identify with their job to the point where their ego is so big, they see this hierarchy, they see themselves way up here, when in reality that's just not the case.
Yeah. The problem is that when you're like that, something happens, that's a really hard fall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really hard fall for you. Sometimes people don't recover from it.
In what we do, the most dangerous thing any of us could have is an ego.
Yeah.
You have to be able to learn from those humbling experiences and then teach others from your own mistakes.
Well, I think you have to have some ego to do this job.
Confidence.
Yes, but that's part of ego.
Fair.
But an overinflated ego is bad.
Yeah.
And I think that you do have to have a sense of self-worth. You can't help somebody unless you can't love somebody unless you love yourself.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Well, I think we talked about this before. I think like the difference between confidence and arrogance. Right?
Yes.
I mean, they're both sides of ego.
Yes.
But arrogance is the dangerous side.
Yes, it is.
100%.
Yeah.
I think new medics fall into that, you graduate and you become a medic and you're like, "Oh, I have all this knowledge. I'm the one in charge on scene," and they use it in a negative way.
Yeah.
Nate talked about that, about when he, as an EMT, and he's worked with some medics, like they're, and because he's got so much experience in the field, that a medic he would be working with a medic, and they would say things like, "Oh, stay in your lane," and Nate actually has so much more experience to pull on.
Yeah.
There's just an EMT. That just a blank is something that just infuriates me so much, because none of us are just one thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you this. I'm the medic today that I am because of an EMT.